Coming up on Network Africa, alleged maltreatment of some Nigerian citizens by Togolese security officials at the Yasimbe Edema International Airport. Nigerian authorities launch investigation. Ethiopia government regains control of UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Bela, from Tigrayan rebels. Loss. The UN Refugee Agency says intercommunal clashes in Cameroon's far north drives at least 100,000 people away from their homes. Hello and a warm welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. Let's begin the program with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend.
Hundreds of thousands of people marched to the presidential palace in Sudan's capital, Khartoum, on Sunday in protest against the October 25th military coup, drawing volleys of tear gas and stun grenades from security forces. Some protesters managed to reach the gates of the palace, and the protest organizers called on more to join a planned sit-in there after sundown. Reuters was not able to verify how many were able to reach the palace. Live video footage showed those who remained being tear-gassed heavily. The outpouring of protests, the ninth major demonstration since the coup and one of the largest, marked the 2018 burning of ruling party building, which touched off a popular uprising that led to the overthrow of long-ruling Islamist autocrat Omar al-Bashir. Over in Tunisia, thousands of protesters demonstrated against President Kais Saied in the capital, pointing to growing opposition to his seizure of power and suspension of parliament 5 months ago. Called to coincide with the anniversary of the uprising that toppled autocrat Zainal Abidine Ben Ali a decade ago, it was the first protest inside announced a long-awaited roadmap last Monday that keeps parliament suspended for another year. The roadmap announced includes a constitutional referendum next July to be followed by parliamentary elections at the end of 2022. Parliament's biggest party, the Islamist Ennahda, has rejected the suspension of parliament for another year.
So our main stories for today: the Nigerian High Commission in Togo is investigating alleged maltreatment of some Nigerians by Togolese security officials at the Yasimbe Edema International Airport. A trending video had shown one of the victims on all fours being manhandled by about 6 security officials at the airport. He was subsequently handcuffed and taken away by the Togolese officials. Reports state that the Nigerians who were traveling on Ethiopian Airlines from the U.S. to Lagos got to Lome and were told that their connecting flight was full and that they could not continue the trip. When some of them tried to protest, the reports say they were manhandled and handcuffed by the Togolese security personnel and airline staff and their telephones confiscated. However, reports say the Nigerians involved have since been evacuated and have been reunited with their family members and loved ones. Well, joining us to discuss this is a human rights activist, Olatunji Lanre-Barua. Good to have you on Network Africa.
Good to be here, and thank you for having me.
You've seen the trending amateur video. One of the victims was on all fours, being manhandled by about 6 security officials at the airport. What do you think could have led to that?
Well, the video, I saw the full-length video. It was really disturbing. As a Nigerian, it was very infuriating. But, you know, if you stand as a neutral, you will still consider it very distasteful. And I felt really angry that it was, whatever the situation was, it was poorly handled. And it wasn't just one person that was pinned down by the security agent. There was a lady that was also pinned down by as many as 5 of those security agents. And at the last count, I saw about 4 Nigerians handcuffed in that video. It was barbaric, to say the least. But, you know, beyond that, it was also very important for us to get all sides of the story. But whatever the side of the story of the Togolese authorities, the manner in which they handled the situation, you know, is really, really, really disturbing and unwelcoming. It's very unprofessional. And because I didn't see parts of the video where maybe there's been some form of aggression by the Nigerians that were being maltreated. And I think it's a legitimate thing for anybody to do at the airport if you're not giving sufficient explanation for reason why you are not able to join a flight. How can an airline say that the connecting flight to Lagos is too full? I think it's, you know, so there's just multiple, you know, ends to the story that just, you know, really even gets you more angry. But what I saw in that video, you know, is really distasteful, is disturbing, and I think the Nigerian authorities, like they have said, really need to step up and do something about it.
Yeah, that would be my next question to you, because in a statement on Sunday, Nigeria's ambassador to Togo, that's Debo Adesina, he stated that the matter is being addressed now through concerted efforts by the mission and relevant Togolese officials, that a probe is underway. What do you think they should be looking out for?
Yeah, right now, I think the investigation should also, you know, cover the unprofessionalism of the airline, of the Ethiopian airline. And there's no way you will fly people from the United States via Togo to Lagos. And by the time you landed them in Togo, and then you're telling them that their connecting flight to Nigeria is full, that means you have actually taken more burden than you can actually carry. And it's a very, very, very terrible thing to do by airlines, and we need to. So there's an end when the Nigerian authority needs to also reach out to the Ethiopian airlines to explain what happened in Lomé, and also the manner in which the Togolese authority descended on the Nigerians. It was as if there was a civil unrest in the city, and I felt that no, you don't treat people like this. These are transit travelers, and this could cause diplomatic rows, and it has actually caused diplomatic row between Nigeria and Togo. So, but looking at this, there are so many questions that need to be answered. There has to be, you know, what was the reason why the flight got overbooked from Lomé to Lagos, and were there other, what were the arrangements made for these travelers? Even if hotels are provided for you, and you might still, you know, you might still have issues with not getting to Nigeria on that particular day. Maybe there are other very important appointments. So there are so many explanations. And at what point were these people briefed? Were protocols followed in about how to handle this kind of situation at airports? So it's both diplomatic, and it could also be, it could also lead to legal issues against the Ethiopian airlines by the Nigerians concerned.
Well, some Nigerians have taken to social media to criticize the federal government, you know, for allegedly failing to stem the attacks on Nigerians abroad. What could be some of the inhibiting factors against government in this regard?
You know, it's very difficult to predict how another country will treat your nationals within their borders or when they are transiting through that country. It's very difficult. But what Nigeria needs to do is to ensure that the consequences of maltreating Nigerians by any country are obvious and severe. And, you know, they will know that, you do not treat these people. There has to be channels of communication. There has to be, since a Nigerian consulate or embassy is in that country, you have to reach out to them, and you have to find a way, as long as they are not breaking the laws of that country. So sometimes you have to really get all sides of the story, and people naturally, you know, we get emotional about these things, which is justifiable. But because we've had too many of these incidents, from different parts of the continent, we've had in South Africa, we've had in Ghana, and we've had even some incidents in Cote d'Ivoire. There was a lady that was put in detention recently that died in Abidjan. So, we have these kind of issues, but most of the solutions to them can only be, achieved through diplomatic channels. And the consequences have to be made clear. And it can't just be about warning to those governments. It also has to be, government needs to step up and demand compensation for Nigerians whose rights are violated in these countries.
All right, then, Olatunji Lanre Bariwa, human rights activist, thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me.
The Ethiopian military has regained control of the historic town of Lalibela from Tigrayan rebels. The move came amid an announcement by the Tigray People's Liberation Front that it is withdrawing from all areas in the Amhara and Afar regions. The TPLF said it took the decision to clear the way for a peaceful resolution to its conflict with the government. This conflict has caused a massive humanitarian crisis, with international mediation efforts having so far failed. However, it is unclear when the military retook Lalibela, but Deputy Prime Minister Dekeme Mekonnen has said visited the town in Amhara on Sunday. Lalibela is famous for its rock-hewn churches, which date back to the 12th and 13th centuries, which was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1978. The UN Refugee Agency says intercommunal clashes that erupted in Cameroon's far north region in the past 2 weeks has driven at least 100,000 people from their homes, although the real number may be much higher. UNHCR says it estimates that more than 85,000 people have fled into neighboring Chad in recent days, while at least 15,000 Cameroonians have been forced from their home inside their country. Well, since humanitarian access in the area is very limited, these totals are thought to be much higher.
Chad is home to nearly 1 million refugees and internally displaced persons, and Cameroon to more than 1.5 million refugees and IDPs.
I was injured in the head by a machete and in the back with knives. After 3 days in the bush, I was able to cross the Lagan River to reach the site of Unduma.
Along with the authorities, UNHCR, other UN agencies and humanitarian partners are rushing to deliver life-saving assistance. The agency has declared a Level 2 emergency and is rapidly scaling its operations to assist affected people in Cameroon and new refugees in Chad. UNHCR said refugees are in dire need of shelter, blankets, mats and hygienic kits. Some are being hosted by local communities, but most are still sleeping in the open and under trees.
We attach a wristband to each individual so that we can distinguish them from the local population. We distribute hot meals, build latrines, and have mobile clinics deployed to the sites for first aid.
In far north Cameroon, security forces have been deployed and disarmament operations are underway. While few incidents have been reported during the past week, tensions remain high. UNHCR and Cameroonian authorities have been leading reconciliation efforts, organizing a forum in early December, during which community representatives committed to end the violence. But without urgent action to address the root cause of the crisis, UNHCR says the situation could escalate further. The agency called for the support of the international community to assist the forcibly displaced and reiterated its call for reconciliation to end the violence so that people can return home safely.
Still to come on the program. Dakar Fashion Week returns to Baobab Forest to promote inclusive fashion. We'll give you more details after the break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. The role of the media in combating the spread of fake news is on the front burner at a 2-day training supported by the United States Consulate in Nigeria. The program, which is in collaboration with the West Africa Broadcast and Media Academy, as well as the Enugu Literary Society, is expected to boost media literacy among practitioners. The Public Affairs Officer of the U.S. Consulate, Stephen Ibeli, says the damage exerted by false information misinformation on any society could be prevented if the media is well equipped with adequate knowledge and the right tools to effectively discern facts from falsehood or opinions.
At the end of this training, we will have trained over 170 journalists, and we're also reaching out to youth, over 1,000 youth, to give people the skills to really understand what media literacy is about, how to understand what is fact versus opinion, how to check reliable sources, how to really check multiple sources in order to really stop the spread of misinformation, not really at a very big level, but at the individual level. So people will have those skills to look at a story and decide and really do some research. Is this a story that I should tell my friends or my neighbors? Is it true? Is it credible? Yeah, I mean, every government is concerned about misinformation because it can lead to serious consequences. It can lead to death even. There was a story a year ago that you could drink salt water to combat the effects of Ebola. That's a very good example of that, where people actually died. So governments are interested in this, non-government organizations are interested, civil society is interested. Really, it's an interest for the entire society because accurate, reliable information is really what we should trade in. We have to trade in facts. And we have to also understand what's opinion and what's facts.
It's the week leading up to Christmas, and many families will be off work and school to spend time together. Well, last Christmas coincided with a rise in COVID cases and increasing restrictions around the world, so families were unable to see each other at this crucial time. But this year appears to be different, as there are vaccines and boosters that offer a degree of protection against COVID hospitalizations. South Africa last week said it recorded low hospitalizations despite the surge in Omicron cases. Also, President Cyril Ramaphosa was announced to have contracted COVID. Well, let's get an update on the situation in South Africa. Joining us now is our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, for more. Hello, Betty. Let's begin with an update on the health of the president. How is he doing?
Thank you, Layo. Season's greetings from here. Well, I'm happy to tell you that President Cyril Ramaphosa has returned to work today after ending his 1 week or so of self-isolation. Recall that he tested positive for COVID on the 12th of December, and he went into isolation. All through, he was sending out messages, although he handed the reins of power to the Deputy President, David Mabuza. And he kept talking while he was in isolation, encouraging people to get vaccinated, and that he has mild symptoms because he's fully vaccinated. So he's ended that today, and he's expected to chair the last cabinet meeting on Wednesday. This Wednesday, the last cabinet meeting for the year. So he's still in good spirits, and he's fine now from the statement from the presidency.
Well,
that's it about his health. He's recovered from COVID, and he's doing okay so far.
That is in news. And how is the Christmas preparation going on, amidst the pandemic? It was quite different. Is it quite different from last year, 2020?
Well, Christmas preparations for this year, it's in full gear. For those who can afford anything, remember the unemployment rate is much higher this year. But those who can afford, but everybody at their own level, they're doing their best to have a good enough Christmas. Much better or less fearful than last year. Last year, because of the restrictions. And I think we were dealing with the second wave at the time, where the numbers went really high and restrictions were brought back a little bit. But this time the COVID Command Council has told the citizens that their restrictions are not likely, but that people should still be careful. So people are traveling. The relevant agencies and government departments are ensuring that accidents are minimal, although we've recorded some really bad cases where families have been wiped out in head-on collisions, and drunk drivers have been arrested here and there. But many have traveled to the homestead, many have traveled to holiday places. Since it's more hectic to travel out of the country, many are going to local. They call it local is lekker. That means local is much, much better than anywhere else. People are still, the president, when he got out of his self-isolation, told the public that they should still go ahead and vaccinate. The numbers are still much lower than the target. We're still standing at about 27 million, whereas the government expected at this time to have up to about 40 million.
Betty. At the foot of a towering baobab tree outside Senegal's capital, Dakar, cameras are flashing in the waning dusk light as a 20-year-old Najib Samuel strides down the catwalk. While forced outside to abide by COVID-19 restrictions last year, organizers of the Dakar Fashion Week of this edition chose to return to the baobab forest to remind attendees of the fashion world's responsibility to operate in a sustainable way.
Dakar Fashion Week kicked off with flashing cameras and applause as the first model, 20-year-old Najiba Samuel, hit the runway. Born with cerebral palsy, Samuel was the first of 24 models of all shapes and sizes to work the 19th annual event, which has inclusiveness and sustainability as its dual themes.
I want to show other disability kids they could do it too, and around the world too. Like, I want to prove to other disability kids, you're not your disability, you're just you. And you're perfectly normal just the way you are. It's important because other disability kids are just outside, inside their houses, doing nothing. They have to come out and show them who they are. That's why it's so important for me to be here. And it's also fun.
This year's event took place outdoors due to the restrictions from the global health crisis. Organizers chose to return to the baobab forest just outside Senegal's capital to remind attendees of fashion world's responsibility to operate in a sustainable way. Featuring designers from across Africa, the Dakar Fashion Week is one of the continent's longest-running fashion exhibitions. Fashion Week founder Adama Ndiaye created the first Black Fashion Week show in Paris. She set high minimum quotas for female designers and once banned models using skin depigmentation cream to promote self-acceptance.
Je ne veux pas vivre la mode comme le dictat de l'Europe le fait. Je ne veux plus faire ça.
I don't want to live the fashion as the European dictator tells us to. I don't want to do that anymore. I want women who represent so many different things, more than just bodies. Of course, there will always be models, beautiful ones, but I want to be able to give room to other women, to different women, and to androgynous men. So I want to show a lot of things that will shake things up a bit, but I think that's my responsibility.
The founder says she chose inclusiveness as one of this year's themes to contrast the often rigid beauty standards of Western fashion.
And on that fashionable note, we end the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm Layo Adegoke.